All right, everybody. This is Pyre. Which, you know, as you can see immediately on the title screen, makes sense that it would be called that. Pyre is described as a action role-playing sports video game. Action role-playing sports video game made by Supergiant. Supergiant made Bastion and Transistor, both incredibly aesthetic games. Both, whatever you want to say about their gameplay, I enjoy them, particularly Transistor. Whatever you want to say about those, beautiful looking games, great music, really nice interactions between the two. It seems to me that Supergiant has continued that pattern. This is a beautiful screen. There is a lot going on here. But I do want to call out an absence. An absence of music. Now, I understand that this title screen changes as you play the game. Like, if you return, then there is music. But I love the auditory sparseness of this screen. The sound of the fire burning, I think it's iconic in the sense of, like, that's a sound that we recognize, right? Like, it is a sound that we are programmed. There are many sounds like this, but it really makes it stand out, right? The fire on its own is great and nice, but it really reinforces the aesthetic of the title screen. I really like that. I think that's a great choice. The other thing that I'm really drawn to here, obviously, is the circular patterns of the screen, right? Really good foregrounding and backgrounding. This pull to the center. We've talked before about balancing of elements on screens, right? Like, I think that it's harder to do a center balanced screen well in this format. But I really like this. I think this is really good. And I also want to point out the contrast, the elemental contrast between the fire in the foreground and the waterfall in the background. And I think the focal point of this whole screen is this person down here, right? For me, the thing that my eyes are drawn to isn't the logo, it's the person. And the reason why is because the towering books on either side and the unfinished, like the broken circle and the downward motion of the waterfall, everything for me pulls the eye right down to this central point. And that's a person, right? It's a person kneeling as though at an altar. I'm assuming, like, that's a person in a cloak, right? With a sigil on their back. Sigils also, right? This is a clearly, obviously, like, magical vibe, right? What is saying magic about this, right? It's the Zodiac style magical circle. It's the cloaked figure. It's the spell books, right? These aren't just books. They look to me like arcane tomes. And the reason why they do is because of things like the five-pointed star, the weird-looking sigils. They could be books in another language, but I think the whole vibe of the screen really screams to me like ritual magic. But what's interesting is that these books aren't here in a librarian sort of sense. These are books that are on fire, right? These books are burning, and burning books have a very specific cultural context, which I think is interesting because even in a fantasy setting, when we think of burning books, our mind is immediately drawn to, at least mine, drawn to two things, right? I think about Fahrenheit 451, and I think about like censorship, right? Fascist censorship, particularly Nazis on the side of that, but I think that's only just the most common example, right? Throughout history, I think we can agree that to the vast majority of people, burning books is a bad call. The people who burn books tend to be bad people, or at least very controlling people. Right, yeah, like fundamentalist church folks, Nazis. I'm sure that other people have burned books, but to me, it's not a cool thing to burn a book. We don't do that. So this to me looks like there is a crime being perpetuated. That's a thing to me here. People who burn books are bad types of people. So it's interesting. Are these books a sacrifice? Are these books a price being paid for a ritual? Is this person kneeling in repentance? What is happening here? And what I like about this too is that the only active element of the screen is the water and the fire, right? Is the idea of the fire burning, but it's burning eternally, right? We don't see the books burning up and crisping. This is a really curious kind of flash frozen moment, but the fire and the water are still active elements of that frozen moment. It's neat that they've managed to balance action and inaction. The color palette is really distinctly clashing in a way that I like. You don't often see blue fire, right? There isn't any smoke. There's just fire, and again, that creates a sort of mystical sense. The merging of the fire and smoke, right? Because the flickering flames down here are blue, that it gives a sort of surreal, again, magical aspect to it. There aren't like billowing clouds of like black or gray smoke. Again, this isn't in the moment. This is the fire, not the smoke itself. Yeah. You get a bit of the haze of the smoke down at the bottom, which is what makes me think that these blue bits are there on purpose. It's stylized, right? Yeah, like it's questionable what is being portrayed here in terms of the blue stuff. That's supposed to be the smoke, but what down here, this haze and smoke is what draws me to it. Yeah, this kind of reads as smoke. The blue stuff reads as the like flickering tails of the fire. But again, the idea here for me is that the color makes it surreal, right? It makes us ask that question. It creates, again, that sort of magical, like if you burn a spell book, the smoke and flame is going to be a bit weird. I want to talk about a couple of other quick visual elements in here. So the repeated star pattern, obviously, that flows from the logo of the game, from Pyre, outward into the other elements, right? We have this ring, this samey ring of stars, the star on the back, the star on the book. That sigil is littered throughout. But we have these more complex sigils, which I'm really excited to sort of learn what they mean in the game. They, to me, again, call on that idea of like the zodiac or arcana, that kind of thing. Is this person, again, kneeling in veneration, or what is happening? And it draws me in both visually into the scene and also mentally, wondering like what is happening here? What is this moment showing us? A couple of quick elements to point out too. The Pyre logo itself, very stylized, a little bit runic, again, kind of like reinforcing that sort of magic sense, right? The logo evokes a kind of ritualistic magical vibe. This arc to me reads as as a moon, or again magic sphere. I think the reason I think moon is because there's a star in the logo as well. I quite like that that Pyre is, as a logo, quite small, but I would love to have seen this screen without the subsequent elements below it. I think this, and this is often the case, the UI elements are the worst part of the screen. The tooltip things, like these windows are nice to look at, but I feel like I would like to see this as it is, and then maybe a hover in, or like having it come in after the fact. But that's, I mean, it's a tiny nitpick. I think the rest of this more than makes up for the lackluster, 5 out of 10. It's fine, right? Yeah, I would love to see a, like, press a button to continue, or like a if you click, the UI comes in, or even having the Pyre logo take up this whole space, and then when we hover or click it, it pulls up our menu. But it's fine. Again, it's a tiny nitpick. I think that it's really evocative. It's a beautiful symbol of what's to come, but it doesn't give us all the answers. And I think that's a very strong point. If somebody showed me this title screen and said, "Would you like to play this game or not play this game?" I would absolutely say, definitely. Let me jump in. Show me the game. I feel like there really isn't much to do here. Like I wouldn't change this title screen, and it makes me interested about what I'm gonna see when we get there. I do want to point out I have a question and something I would like to learn about this game. What are these? Because they look like cages. Those are some ominous objects. Who are those cages for? Are they going to get thrown in a fire too? What is the deal down there? Also reinforcing the literary aspect of the title screen, our menu pointer is the nib of a fountain pen. So that's cool. So this is Pyre, Supergiant Games. I'm hella curious about it. Let's dive in.